Good evening, all. I would like to call the Town of Rocky Hill Planning and Zoning Commission regular meeting of Wednesday, December 18th, 2024 to order. First item on the agenda is public hearing.
Special permit modification, Melissa Long, RA, proposing a school use, more specifically, a private special education facility for property located at 525 Brook Street in an office park zoning district, ID 17-006.
Do we have the applicant? Yes.
I'm here for Melissa.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So basically, thanks
Say your
for
name.
having us here today. Yeah, Melissa
You guys
could
state
make
your
it.
If you can.
Name, yeah, Joel Napak, and it's Napak Design Group, the name of the architecture practice. Okay. So the project, you have the documents there. Basically, the existing building there was a school or uses a school previously, I think twice before. And we're looking to, have the new school there. It's for Hubbard Day School. And there'll be basically very minimal work inside, nothing on the exterior. And, it's pretty much phase one, because they were looking to get in soon, because they have dates and children that, ready to occupy. But the only thing that really needs to happen is painting work for phase one, which they're looking to open for January. And phase two is in June. But they have 4 classrooms for phase one, and there are 4 existing classrooms. There's no reconfiguration of any space. They were just, painting it and then looking to have the inspections to open up the school there. That's pretty much the scope. It's a pretty nominal job. Later on, they're just doing an administrative area, but basically all the classrooms remain. And the parking, these children, various ages, they don't drive, so they need assistance. So that's why we have a waiver letter for the parking. That's pretty much what we're looking to do, is just kind of use it just as it was.
I can, if I may, just chime in.
Thanks.
The commission may recall 525 Brook Street was an old office building. Creek Elementary School was looking to build their new building, so they occupied that office building for a period of time. They retrofitted the inside. Years later, Goodwin College came in and got an application, a special permit application. They were doing some other work to the property and going to be occupied by a university. The special permit, the way it was worded on the application, the way it was written up and approved, it was very specific. So in order to have this be approved and be approved so it would be legal, we wanted to have them come in for a modification of that special permit. So it would just be a school use. It is for special needs children. So the impact with respect to traffic, and I'm glad you pointed that out, Joel, would be negligible in that you would have staff and teaching staff and paraprofessionals be there, but the kids would not be driving. So I just wanted to give you a brief history on why they're here.
Thank you. I'll open up the questions to commissioners. Commissioner Zurelli?
You want the public first?
Yeah, I think that's a public hearing, yes. Anyone in the public who would like to address to the commission on this application? Anyone in the public? I don't see anyone.
And we do have the notifications of mailing, just so you know.
Yes, thank you.
Yep. I'll open up Commissioner Zurelli.
I have no questions.
Legal.
Is this an existing school that's being moved here?
Yes, they have a school, yes. They have several locations, one in Stamford and one in Manhattan as well. And I think another one too, but I don't know, they've been
And
around.
Last question, you mentioned drop-off. Is it buses or parents? Do
Yeah,
you know if it's gonna be
It's gonna
like,
be, I think, the minivans, more like, not big school buses.
So
just
they're-
minivans that there's they'll pull up into right near the entry, there's like a, curb cut and
Got it.
kind of thing like that, yeah. And that'll stay, there's no work there either.
You know how many students are going to be in there?
Well, right now, I mean, it's 4 classrooms for Phase 1, and it's very small. There's like 8 or 10 kids in a classroom, because it's like one-on-one teaching. So, ultimately, I think there's like 10 or 12 classrooms, but, they don't, for the Phase 2 total, but right now, it's just the 4 classrooms. And like I say, it's a one-on-one type of learning.
So the only concern would be school buses, but they're going to be queued in on the property? Nothing-
Yes, oh, yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. And the smaller vans, yeah.
That's all I got.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Hussey?
The only question I have is probably more for staff and Kim. This parking waiver, does that go with the applicant, or does that go with the parcel?
Well, I think you should explain what your parking waiver is.
Right, I mean, it was basically the amount of spots were needed for, because some of these kids are aged, high school, that they needed more spots, but then none of them drive, so that's why. And so we didn't need all the spots in the lot, pretty much,
So you won't be using all the
Yep.
parking you
Oh, yeah, we
have.
will not be, yeah, exactly.
That's-
Yeah,
It was-
it's
it was
pretty,
just-
pretty vast parking lot, I mean, if you see the site plan, but yeah, we won't be using it
So it was
much.
more of a, we don't
The
need all the
staff.
parking.
Need all the parking, so you're not really doing anything with all the existing parking spots that are there, you just don't need that many.
Correct, yeah, there's no work there,
Okay, all right,
exactly.
all set, thank you.
Sure. And I say one thing, I brought a letter with me, because the other crazy part of this, they're looking to try to get these 4 classrooms open for January 6th. And I know you have, there's a process of posting this, if it is successful, so, the use. Is there any, I was just gonna hand this letter, just from the owner, the head of the school.
You would read that into the record, whatever that letter is.
You
Okay.
can read it in if you want.
What's that?
You can read it in the record if you
Oh,
want.
okay, so I'll just, let me grab that. Thank you. So to whom may concern, we greatly appreciate your accommodation for reviewing our project at this meeting, December 18th, with the Town Zoning Board. At this time, we respectfully request if the Town Building Department, that's the Building Department, can help us expedite the approval for Phase 1 so that the school could commence with classes in the Phase 1 area only by Monday, January 6, 2025. Please note there is absolutely no construction work in Phase 1, only minimal painting. We understand the time constraints at this time of year, but we will obviously provide access to the site for any inspection at any time that is convenient for the town so that we can have children in the classrooms on that day, Monday, January 6th. Greatly appreciate your consideration in this matter. Sincerely, Jonathan Trichter. That's the head of the school and the owner.
I
Okay?
can give you planning and zoning obviously needs to render their decision.
Exactly, yes, I understand.
Once that decision is rendered, there is a special permit form, if it's favorable, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
A special permit form needs to be recorded on the land records. If I am in receipt of a $60 fee, and I don't take payment at meetings, that's not appropriate. but,
Okay, yeah, right.
If,
Cash, yeah.
if there is a,
When?
if there is a favorable decision, there's a $60 fee payable to the town of Rocky Hill.
Sure.
Check or cash, and that would be submitted to our department, Community Development Services. And then a form would be prepared and recorded on the land records. So you need, one, a decision by the commission, and the $60 fee in-house here in this building.
Okay.
So that will settle the planning and zoning end of things, should they act favorably.
Right.
The building department, it depends on if you're doing any work that requires a building permit.
Okay, right, and that's separate.
If,
right.
if you're doing something that requires a building permit, the permit process is online.
Okay.
And I know by law they have 30 days, and I believe you've reached out to
Yes,
their
we have.
tech, you've reached out to
They
their
did it.
technical
They're
clerk.
very, very
So-
helpful, yeah.
So, it doesn't sound like you may need building permits. I mean, I
Right,
know there's
not-
a sign change that you have to do, that's something you have to
That's-
work out with sign
exactly.
companies or whatever, but, so I explained the planning and zoning process, building, I think, would be,
And the zoning, we would,
accommodating.
when is there word of that, if there's approval?
if
Is
there's
that-
a decision, you will
Yes.
know, you could possibly know this evening. By state law, they do have 65 days, but they may make a decision
Oh.
this evening. You're on the agenda under Agenda Items A, number 5 on the agenda, 5A. So they may, depending on what happens with the hearing, if they close the hearing, they can certainly deliberate, and then it's up to them to decide or table.
Should I stick around here
If you want to
tonight?
Yes.
stick around,
Yep.
that's fine, yep.
Perfect,
do
thank you.
And if
Thank
you
Okay.
can
Yes.
give that document to
Yep.
her.
I'll put that in your file.
Thanks for your time.
Oh, hold on, hold on.
We got
Hold on.
questions.
We still have
Wait,
more.
wait.
Commissioner Knuckle?
He's heading to the chair.
I don't have any questions.
Nothing. Commissioner Marhouse?
I have nothing.
Just a curiosity question. It says you have 107 staff on the first floor, so that's 4 classrooms, so you have about 25 staff per classroom in the ballpark?
No, no, because that's for both phases,
Oh,
yeah,
that's for both?
yeah.
Oh, okay, it says, okay. But both phases are all on the first floor?
Actually, there'll be, right, yes, on this plan, yes, correct.
Okay, all right, that's just curious. All right, no more questions.
Thank you. Can I have a, no, motion?
You don't have any questions?
Huh?
You don't have any questions?
No, I don't have a question.
Motion to close the public hearing.
Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank,
1B,
Have a seat.
Thank you.
We just have another public hearing, and then we go into the part of the meeting where we vote on your thing. So you, give us a couple minutes, yeah. Public hearing B, special permit site plan application, Linares Fay Rocky Hill LLC, proposing an adult use cannabis retail location in an existing building and property located at 5 Water Chase Drive, AKA 1625 Silestein Highway, in an RC Regional Commercial Zoning District ID 04-558.
do you have applicant?
Good evening. I have a brief presentation for you guys tonight, so I brought some
Okay,
handouts.
if you want to give them to me, I'll pass them out for you. And if you could just state your name and address for me. Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. My name is Daniel Glissman. I'm an attorney with McDermott, Reynolds, and Glissman, and I'm here on behalf of my client, Linares Fay Rocky Hill LLC, DBA Rodeo Cannabis, in connection with our proposed cannabis retail establishment to be located at 5 Water Chase Drive. We're here this evening seeking a site plan and special permit approval. A little bit about my background. I've been representing folks in the cannabis industry for over a decade now. Some of my first projects were the first medical marijuana dispensary in downtown Boston, as well as the first adult use retailer to open for sales in Massachusetts. Over the last 6 years, I've focused my practice almost exclusively in Connecticut, and I've been fortunate enough to represent nearly every license type in the Connecticut cannabis licensed ecosystem. I've also worked with several of the first adult use retailers to open here in Connecticut, and I've licensed and permitted several dispensaries, retail establishments, cultivation facilities, manufacturing facilities all across the state. I'm joined this evening by some of the principals of Rodeo Cannabis, Art Linares and Brian Fay, as well as Bill Villette of Villette and O'Neill, our traffic engineer. And I was hoping to ask Art to come up and just give you guys a couple of minutes of background on his company. Art?
Good evening. Thank you for having us here today. Art Linares. I am the co-founder of Rodeo Cannabis and Linares Fay Rocky Hill LLC, along with my partner, Brian Fay. We are a social equity company in Connecticut, a small business. We employ over 20 people. We have a farm in Litchfield County. We have a manufacturing lab in Sterling, Connecticut, and we're excited to invest in opening our company here in Rocky Hill. And, you know, we're a small business. The owners, both of us, are Connecticut natives, and we look forward to being a part of the fabric of the community and being good neighbors. And so thank you for having us, and we're excited for the opportunity.
Thank you. Excellent. Thank you, Art. So I have a little presentation for you guys this evening. Let's see, what's the... Oh, thank you. So just a little bit of context for everyone. The first slide here shows what the Connecticut cannabis industry looked like at the outset of adult use legalization. As you can see, we had 18 retail establishments and 4 cultivation facilities. The sites circled in red were the first 7 to open for adult use sales. That was just under 2 years ago. Next slide, please. Thank you. And today, we've grown exponentially. We've nearly tripled the number of retail establishments across the state. We've grossed roughly $550 million in total revenue across the state. We've doubled the number of cultivation establishments, and we now have 3 independent manufacturing facilities, of which Rodeo Cannabis has, as they mentioned, one of the cultivators and one of the manufacturing facilities. Their cultivation facility is an outdoor farm, as Art mentioned, in Litchfield County. It's the largest outdoor cultivation establishment on the East Coast. Next slide, please. This is just a little additional context so that you folks can get a sense of what a little bit more mature market looks like. This is what Massachusetts looks like today. Over $7 billion in revenue since they commenced sales. There's nearly 400 retail establishments, 170 cultivators, and they employ roughly 22,000 folks across the industry. So, as we mentioned, we're here tonight for a proposed cannabis retail establishment at 5 Waterchase Drive. We feel that this is an ideal location for this establishment for several reasons. Certainly, most importantly, its access. As you are likely aware, this site is located adjacent to Interstate Highway 91, and it's in a heavily commercial area. There's an abundant amount of parking on site. We have 44 spaces, which is more than enough to accommodate the needs of our customers. And they'll be able to access the site easily through the signalized intersection at Waterchase Drive. The site is located in the RC zoning district, which is a zoning district that's been specifically designated by the town of Rocky Hill to host cannabis establishments. And it's also sufficiently buffered from the sensitive sites in town that the town deemed necessary for a buffer within the zoning regulations. We're making limited improvements to the facility itself. No, thank you. You can move to the next slide. Here's just our elevation renderings of the exterior. Really just exterior improvements to rejuvenate the building and install the appropriate and necessary signage for the facility. Otherwise, the site itself is remaining unchanged. We'll likely restripe the parking lot and fix or update any of the lighting fixtures to the extent they need to be. But otherwise, the site itself and the existing building as it's currently established does not require any modifications. It's going to be easily adapted to this use. Next slide, please. This is just a copy of our lighting plan to show the existing lighting in place. And like I mentioned, we'll be updating and replacing any light fixtures that need to be replaced or bulbs that are currently out. Here you have a shot of the proposed interior floor plan. They'll be renovating the interior of this building. It was formerly a restaurant use. The building's been vacant for just over a year now, as you folks are likely aware. So they will be making some interior remodeling and renovations. We've tried to limit the amount of renovations and sort of work within the existing scope of the building. But I'll just walk you guys briefly through the flow of the establishments. You can get a sense, if you haven't, what the sort of consumer experience is. Obviously, as a cannabis establishment, it's restricted to age 21 plus. So when you enter the building at the front main entrance, you'll be moved right into a screening lobby where you'll have your identification checked by the receptionist. They'll confirm that you're 21 plus. They'll check your ID, run it through their ID scanning and double checking database, and then you'll be granted access into the sales floor. And the front screening area is actually a man-trap style area, so the door into the sales floor cannot be opened until the door from the exterior is in fact closed. It's a security standard that the state has employed. Once you're inside the facility, you can see we've designed some millwork to create sort of a natural queuing of customers. And one thing to note about the shopping experience in a cannabis establishment is it's more akin to a jewelry store and not so much a convenience store. And what I mean by that is the products and the goods that you're purchasing are not out to be grabbed and then brought to the counter. You actually just walk up to the counter. Oftentimes there's an iPad or a screen behind the sales clerks that will show you the menu offerings, and you choose your products. That order is then sent to the back of the house. Here you can see there's a specific fulfillment room, which is adjacent to the inventory rooms. The product order will be fulfilled, given back to the sales clerk, who will then bring you your order and double check your ID again at the point of sale. The transaction will be consummated, and then the patron will exit through a dedicated exit door. The facility itself is extremely secure, and everything outside of the sales floor is limited access areas. So there are key cards and access points that all the employees have to work through in order to get into the various areas of the facility. The products and the deliveries will come in through the rear. You can see there's an intake room at the rear of the building. Products will be brought immediately inside, where they'll be checked and verified, and then they are brought directly to the inventory area. And that's a highly secure room and reinforced area. And the whole facility itself is covered with a tremendous amount of security cameras. The state will require that we have camera coverage for any areas where cannabis is held or could be moved or could cross through. So pretty much the entire facility will be under camera coverage, and we'll have exterior cameras as well. The exterior patio, which was formerly an outdoor dining area, will be decommissioned in a sense. We'll be putting planters and the like outside, so it won't be in use at all by any patrons. Of course, there's no consumption allowed on-site or happening anywhere within the facility or on the property. Next slide, please. Here is a overlay of the security systems, and really it's just to give you a sense of what the number of cameras, the alarm points within the facility. All the doors are individually alarmed, and you have to have a primary and secondary alarm system by state regulation. So very secure sites, and obviously designed for only those that are 21 plus. Next slide, please. Here we've just put together a brief rendering of the exterior of the facility. This is the Silas Dean side facing. Next slide, please. And here is another rendering just within the confines of the property, right in the parking lot. Next slide. And that's all we have for you. Again, we do believe that this is an ideal location for this use. It satisfies all the criteria set forth in the zoning regulations, and Rodeo Cannabis is eager to become a member of the Rocky Hill business community and good corporate citizens, and they're excited for this opportunity. So thank you all very much, and we'd welcome any questions that you might have. Thank you.
Now, Kim, this is a special permit, right? So we have to go through the special permit criteria.
Correct.
So you have those special permit standards?
I
So we
do.
just have to go through
Yep,
all the
absolutely.
criteria. Yep.
Yeah, so as I mentioned, we're seeking a special permit and site plan approval tonight for this project. We believe that under the special permit criteria, that this is a suitable location for the proposed use. I have outlined many of the reasons why we think this site works, but as I mentioned before, primarily we think it's a good fit for the town and the community, and it's commercially zoned area and commercial area, as well as its proximity to the highway. The facility is appropriate for the use, and we don't need to make any additional improvements. We're utilizing the existing building, so we believe it's an appropriate facility. The transportation conditions are suitable. As I mentioned, the site is accessible by Silas Deane Highway through Water Chase Drive at a signalized intersection with close access to Interstate 91. There's adequate public utilities and services. This facility itself will be less impactful from a utilities perspective than the previous restaurant use. It's a retail store, not a lot of activity from a utilities perspective. Environmental protection and conservation, we're not making any changes to the existing conditions of the site, and the long-term viability of the facility. Again, we'll be making a significant investment to improving the existing conditions of the interior of the building, as well as improving the exterior facade, hopefully to keep the building in good condition for years to come. And of course, this facility is consistent, and this proposal is consistent with the overall objectives of both the plan of conservation and development for the town of Rocky Hill, as well as the zoning regulations, in that it's a use that's been contemplated and permissible in the RC zoning district. We also believe that this site satisfies the site plan standards for many of the same reasons. The site itself and the use proposed here is an appropriate location and an appropriate use for all the reasons that I mentioned this evening. There's no unusual features to the site itself. It's a fully developed property. It was developed in 1985, and there's no proposed site disturbance. No special considerations are needed for unusual site features. The design, architecture, and aesthetics of the building are consistent with the surrounding properties and will be simply improving the building itself. And then from a traffic perspective, we have submitted a traffic study as part of our application materials, and you'll see within those within that traffic study that the parking can be accommodated quite easily within the existing 44 parking spaces, and the traffic on the nearby Silas Deane Highway will not be impacted by the proposed cannabis use. So we do feel that all the special permit and site plan criteria have been satisfied by our application and the materials in this presentation.
Right, thank you.
Thank you.
Any comments?
No, we had, no.
Any comments from the public who would like to address to the commission on this particular proposal? Anyone in the public who would like to address to the commission? Seeing none,
I do have the notification of abutters.
thank you. I'll open up for the commissioners. Commissioners Zarelli?
On the site plan that you guys have, you show a whole bunch of green vegetation. Is that new or is that existing?
That's existing.
So none of that's changing.
Correct. No changes to existing vegetation. It's in pretty good shape. If you take a drive-by today, you'll see it's pretty well buffered from a vegetative perspective.
Can you take us through the hours of operation?
I know I put them in my application. Let me just check here briefly. Yes, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., Monday through Sunday. Pretty typical of cannabis establishments. Anywhere from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. are regular hours, but the proposal is for 9 a.m. to 9 p.m.
In all the signage on your property that you show in your renderings, it's just going to be in the existing locations where the signage is now, right?
That's correct.
And then my last question is, do you guys only sell your product that you create, or do you sell for others also?
It's a great question, and the answer is for anyone, not just our products. Although, to be clear, you can only purchase products from Connecticut-based businesses at this point in time. So any products that are sold at the facility will be manufactured and cultivated and produced here in Connecticut.
So, to that, how do deliveries work? I mean, do they come in special vehicles? Is it trucks? Is it boxes? Is it
Yep.
pickups? How does it work?
Yep, yeah, great question as well. So a couple of things. First of all the deliveries come in final package form. So the products themselves are ready to go to the consumer when they hit the store here, which reduces odor and any other concerns with respect to packaging on site. So the products come and they're ready to be given right out to the consumers. The deliveries typically occur in Sprinter van type vehicles. They're not trucks, not box trucks, they're vans. Frankly, they have big plastic totes of all the products inside them with boxes and all the various bags. And, packaging and labeling in Connecticut, we have some of the most stringent regulations in the country with respect to cannabis packaging and labeling. So they're very benign and sort of not attractive to children and the like. That's intentional by the state.
Thank you. I have nothing.
Mr. Glico?
I guess this is a question for staff. Is there any schools or anything left at that property behind where Porter and Chester used to be? Is Porter and Chester?
No, that's now a.
Just a playscape.
Like a.
There was multiple tenants there, that's why I wasn't sure
Yeah,
if it was still
no,
existing.
No, there's like a amusement
Trampoline.
area,
Park.
trampoline-like park,
And the AMCO?
Namco,
That's all there's
and
there?
a dialysis center.
Oh.
And then the hotel, like across the way.
And you mentioned cameras for security. Is there any security guards?
No. No, sometimes the staff will be trained. They'll have specific staff trained on sort of the security protocols, but it's not mandated that there'll be security guards at the state level. Some retail establishments do have them. They're not armed. But most of the time, it's really just employees that are trained in security protocols. And obviously, there's, the front desk folks who are actually checking the IDs. But no specific sort of outsourced security guards.
That's all I got. Thank you.
Following up a little bit on Commissioner Glico's comment, distance to Fun City Amusement Park there, the Adventure Park, I take it, I don't have a dimension, but do you know how the distance?
I don't know the distance off the top of my head, but the zoning regulations do require 1,000-foot separation from certain delineated sensitive uses, and we satisfy all of the requirements in
So
the
it is
zoning
greater-
regulations.
It is greater than 1,000 linear feet?
Not from the Adventure Park. The Adventure Park itself is a commercial use. It's not a school or,
It's not municipal.
it's not a municipal recreation facility. That's correct.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Commissioner Glico?
Any proposed improvements to the parking lot?
Just restriping of the parking lot itself. And I think some of the light bulbs on some of the existing light fixtures are out currently, so those will all be replaced. But the existing lighting infrastructure will stay in place, and all the parking will stay as is, just restriped and cleaned up.
If I could jump in there, the ADA spaces may need to be updated with the current symbol on the pavement and on the sign,
Okay,
just so you know.
Thank
'cause
you.
They change over time, so.
good, yeah. Certainly, that would be part of the final plan submittal through the building department, updating the ADA signage and symbols. There are 2 ADA parking spaces directly outside of the entrance.
Nothing else.
Commissioner Morhos?
The only question I have or a comment is Sunday sales legal in Connecticut? I believe you said Sunday from not your regular daily hours.
Yes.
Did I hear
Yes.
that correctly?
You did hear that correctly, and they are legal. They're permitted in Connecticut. You can be open 7 days a week for cannabis sales.
Okay, that's all I have.
Commissioner Robbins?
Just curious about the layout on the interior, the service area. Is that what, that after someone goes through the sales area, they go to the service area to get their order fulfilled?
No, the order will be fulfilled right from the point of sale. So there's a fulfillment, if you're looking at the site plan, or excuse me, the floor plan, the inventory room is sort of set directly behind the point of sale system, and just adjacent to that, there is a dedicated fulfillment room that will have a pass-through window. And so the orders will get packaged in the inventory room and given to the fulfillment folks, who will then pass it through the window to the bud tenders, they call them, and those folks will then bring it to the patron right there at the point of sale. But there is a dedicated exit for customers, so they're not coming in and out the same entrance point. So
Because in that service area on the north side, there's an express pickup.
yes, so there is an option for online ordering. A lot of the consumer preference these days is online ordering. That's the furthest point of sale system. So it's really just a dedicated point of sale system for express online ordering. So if you've already placed your order online, you can go directly to the express pickup and grab your order and be on your way.
But that whole area is accessible to customers. They can walk into that area.
That's correct. It's all within the sales floor.
And then I see there's, for the safety purposes, I see there's one controlled access point and for customers, and two egress points, one of them being an emergency exit only. Is that correct?
That's right. That's right. So there is as far as the consumers are concerned, the controlled access is the screening lobby, their initial entrance, and the door leading directly into the sales floor itself. So the front door will be open, people will be able to walk right in, but the door into the facility, which is just at the edge of the screening lobby, that is a secured and controlled access point. And then the exit vestibule separately, that's a accessible exit. And then there is also an emergency exit, as you noted.
Okay, and then the ADA requirements are, as they are now, would be adequate for this type of business. So it looks like there's 2 handicap parking spaces that might need to be upgraded. But you don't have any, you have sloped sidewalks for wheelchair access and the rest of it?
Yeah, it's very flat. I believe the access is currently as is. Again, we're not making any modifications to the existing building, so ADA compliance is as it is today.
So the last question I have is, you do talk about having cannabis waste. What are the controls on moving waste out of the facility?
Yep, it's a great question. So the primary way that retail establishments handle cannabis waste is they return it back to the vendor. So if a customer returns a product, or if a product expires just from sitting in the inventory for too long, they'll call up the vendor, and the vendor will pick it up and return it. We'll accept it as a return. So that's the common practice. There is, if you get specific approval from the Department of Consumer Protection, they have to review your waste disposal standard operating procedures. They can permit retail establishments to destroy on-site. That's not the intention today, at least for this establishment. But the typical practice is they grind up the cannabis with dirt and other materials to render it useless, and then they can dispose of it as regular trash. But the purpose and the objective of the project here would be they'll be sending everything back to the vendors. That's the sort of
So all the
standard.
waste will be kept indoors until the vendor comes and picks it up?
That's exactly right. Yeah, you actually have to have a separate shelf within your vault area, quarantine area, they call it, and as soon as it gets expired, you have to move it into the quarantine area, and it sort of sits there until it's ready to leave. And same thing, if it gets returned, it can't be resold, so it has to sit in the quarantine area until it gets sent back to the vendor. And the cultivation and manufacturing establishments are much more equipped to handle the waste, so they have a more industrial scope. And there are companies actually within the state that do offer disposal services. They come in and help dispose of the cannabis waste, so that's also an option, but
All right, thank you. I don't have any more questions.
thank you.
I got a couple. So I see that when you enter the main entrance, there is exit vestibule, and then there is entrance to the sales floors after you are checked in, right?
Yep.
So can anybody, when somebody's exiting vestibule, enter into, right, rather than screening? So what's the process there? How
Yeah,
do you
it's a-
prevent that?
It's a good question. Same thing with the entrance vestibule. The exit vestibule is a man-trap style exit. As you can see, there's two doors. So the initial door has to be closed in order for the second door to open.
So that is mechanically
Correct.
locked in?
Yep,
So I can't just leave it a little open and then try to get out?
that's right.
Is that-
That's right. And again, there's no product on the sales floor itself. So if someone were to somehow navigate through that, there's really nothing that they can do. Their identification would be checked at the point of sale. And it's not a large facility. The building itself is only, 3,000 square feet. So the sales floor is easily monitored by the bud tenders right there.
And the vendor entrance?
Yep.
How is that operational? Like, so how does it open and, I mean, do they have to be, do they ring the bell and somebody opens the door? Or like, so, just trying to understand if somebody walks in behind the vendor.
Yep. No, it's a great question. Same thing. The delivery entrance door is similarly a man-trap function. And, but the standard protocol is that the delivery folks arrive, they pick up the phone, call their point of contact within the facility, and they'll be granted access into the facility. The door will close behind them. The first door will close behind them. Then they'll come in through the second door, and that's where the actual inventory intake process will occur.
Is the service area as open to public as sales floor, or service area is locked?
I'm sorry, say again?
The service area that you see, is that, can?
It's locked, yes. The area behind the point of sale system is locked, and you see there's
Yeah, there's a door.
there's a
there.
gate there. It's similarly, it's required to be locked under state law. You actually have to wave a key card in front of the access panel to allow access into the rear service area where the bud tenders stand.
And then with the emergency exit, because I don't see any, draft
No,
there, so how does that work?
it's, you can't access it from the outside. You can only access it from the inside, and it will be, locked with a crash bar on it, so it'll only be openable when the fire alarm kicks in.
Okay, otherwise you can't open
That's
on
right.
a regular basis.
Yep.
Now, are there metal detectors or anything like that, or?
No real security checks beyond confirming the individual is 21 plus and they are who their identification says they are.
She's saying the municipal one.
Those were questions I had.
Thank you.
Anyone else has any follow-up questions?
I guess I have a question for staff. Under 6.0.1, it says the property on which the producer is located shall not be permitted within 200 feet of any portion of a property in which duly organized school, municipality, a municipal park, recreational facility, place of worship is located, or within 200 feet of the boundary of the residential zoning. Does this fall within 200 feet of the property adjacent to it? That is the,
Well, we read this as municipal park or municipal recreational facility. That's what we read that.
oh, so you're saying like a town park?
That's right.
That's what myself and Ben, our CEO, read that to me.
There's also a definition of municipal recreational facility, which 25 acres or more within the zoning regulations, and so
And
it's
then
very specific.
Residential zoning is on the other side of Solstein Highway.
Yep, gotcha.
Past the Howard Johnson's Motel and Taco Bell.
Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no further questions, can I have a motion, please?
Motion to close the public hearing.
I have a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. So I think the sitting commissioners are just regular members.
Right. For now, you.
Yeah, for like, yeah.
But there's gonna be one that.
Yeah, one
Yeah,
that we,
yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Calling the regular meeting to order. Item 3, public comment. This is the period where anyone in the public who would like to address to the commission on items not on the agenda. Again, anyone in the public who would like to address to the commission for items not on the agenda. Seeing none, can I have a motion for consent agenda?
Motion to adopt the consent agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any abstain? So
Aye.
I'm going to abstain because I wasn't here for November 20th.
So then he can't second
Same.
it.
I can't second
Yeah,
it.
you can say it.
So we need a different second.
Give me a second.
If I'm seated, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I abstained.
Oh, wait a minute.
No,
Sean
it's,
is not seated.
So he has to second it.
So it's,
Second.
yeah, he has to second
Ron,
it. Ron seconded, it has to second.
Here for the last meeting? Was you here for the last meeting, Ron?
no, yeah, he was.
Yes.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
then that's fine.
Yep.
Yes.
You get it? Agenda item 5A.
Special permit modification, Melissa Long, RA, proposing a school use, more specifically, a private special education facility for property located at 525 Brook Street in an office park zoning district, ID 17-006.
Can I have a motion?
Motion to approve the special permit modification for the school use at 525 Brook Street.
Any discussion?
Need a second?
Oh, second?
Second.
Any discussion on motion? Hearing none. All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Congratulations.
Motion passes.
Congratulations.
Item B.
Agenda item B, special permit site plan application, Linares Fay Rocky Hill LLC proposing an adult use cannabis retail location on property located at 5 Water Chase Drive, AKA 1625 Silestein Highway, in RC Regional Commercial Zoning District ID 04-558.
So can I have a motion, please?
Motion to approve site, special permit site plan application for 5 Water Chase Drive.
Can I have a second?
Second.
All right. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Congratulations.
Item 5C.
Site plan application, major change per section 9C64E of the Rocky Hill zoning regulations, Edward West, proposing a dual-port EV charging station on the outside of the building on the northeast corner for property located at 850 Brook Street in a BP2 Business Park 2 zoning district, ID 16-288-002.
For this,
I don't see an applicant here, but I do have things I wish to say.
so is there applicant to address to the commission on Edward West?
Can we table it based upon what may have been a lengthy hearing that turned out not to be? Can we maybe table this and to later on in the agenda just to see if someone does appear?
Motion to table to agenda item F.
Second.
All in favor?
Thank you.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. And I was looking at five, you're saying after five, right?
Agenda item D, site plan application, Eric S. Parker Esquire, proposing a 12-space parking lot to the north of the existing office building and modifying access to the building for property located at 621 Cromwell Avenue in a C Commercial Zoning District, ID 12-137.
Good evening, gentlemen. I'm Eric Parker, the principal at Romano Parker and Associates here in Rocky Hill. I think our firm has been before you on dozens of applications over the years, but this is the first time that we've ever done one for us. And the good news about that is I don't have to wear a tie because I'm the client, so who cares what the lawyer dresses like? You have the plan that was prepared. Chuck Sheehan, our engineer, put together the site plan for you. We purchased the building that was previously Agnelli Real Estate. Most recently, prior to that, it was a somewhat dilapidated and abandoned residence for a number of years. Mr. Agnelli, the prior owner, turned it into office space. He had a site plan that expired just a short time ago, so we're not proposing a modification of that site plan, but rather a new site plan before you today, seeking to convert the garage into office space and add 12 spaces in a parking lot to the north of the building. I think all the comments from staff, we met with staff, and then Mr. Sheehan, the engineer, met with staff a second time. I think we've addressed all of their comments on that plan, but I'd be happy to answer any of your questions. There is a small amount of wetlands on the neighboring property. We've already been through the Conservation Commission, and because of the exact location of that, it somewhat handcuffed us to the plan that you see before you. Things like looping around the building or moving it into a different location, just because of where the wetlands were, would have required disturbance of the wetlands. Our current plan doesn't require any of that. Even our temporary stockpile and things like that are all in the upland review, but away from the wetlands. So we think this is the most effective and environmentally friendly option while providing the parking that our firm needs in its new location.
I'll open up comments. Commissioner, is it ready?
Do you, are you having any lighting in this parking lot, or is it off the building?
It's all existing lighting that's off the building, that's proposed. We're, other than this exact time of year where maybe it's dark for an hour at the end of our workday, we're pretty much a 9 to 5 business, and there's not really much need for any lighting except for staff heading out to their car at the end of the day. So we're not really planning anything besides what's already there. It was originally a residence, so it's got motion, old-fashioned motion lights on a couple locations. We have no plans for parking lot light posts or anything along those lines.
I have nothing further.
Commissioner Glico?
Is that an existing retaining wall on site?
It is an existing retaining wall. That was part of the approval that Mr. Agnelli got back in 2018 during the conversion from residential to the office use. It's a pretty good grade up the hill. There's quite a bit of land behind it, but there is that existing retaining wall at what was the end of the residential driveway.
Okay, so there's no additional walls
No,
being built?
it's all existing.
That's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner?
I'm sure the building department will comment on it, but I figured I'd bring it up now. It looks like, Eric, you've got LP tanks for those two bollards that are in front of that thing that are protecting it?
That's what we're proposing, is 2 bollards to protect it. The parking is, assuming people pull into the spots, is facing away, so for protection from backing vehicles.
Okay.
We do have 2 bollards. Obviously, now it's just grass, so we're not worried about it. But once we have that parking lot use, some bollards will be added to protect that, as well as the air conditioning condenser.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Rebecca?
No questions.
Commissioner Mahomes?
I have nothing.
Yep. Commissioner Roberts?
Is there any existing parking on the property now, or is?
Not a lot. So for the office use in 2018, it required, based on that use and the square footage, 6 parking spaces. The 2 existing garage bays are 2 of the 6 parking spaces, which, as you can imagine, an office isn't optimal for us. So we are making do in sort of a jigsaw puzzle fashion at this time until in the spring, when we can, put in a full parking lot with your approval. Right now, it's just a residential driveway. There's a handicapped spot right as you pull up the driveway. There's a hashed out space next to it. and there's 2 garage spaces and then just some area. And there's 6 parking spaces on Mr. Agnelli's site plan, but as I said, it's kind of a jigsaw puzzle with clients coming and going.
So are the 12 new spaces going to be built on top of the,
There were most of the others is abandoned. The handicap space will stay where it was on his site plan because there's a ramp leading from it. Everything else will be in the new parking space, in the new parking lot. The
Okay,
existing
so-
will now
so-
have to be driveway to
so
access that lot.
3 spaces will become pervious now? Or,
No, it's just a driveway that they've
Oh, oh.
striped. So it's not,
oh,
I'm trying to carefully say to you, it's not really parking, but we're using it that way because at some point it was approved that way.
all right. I appreciate the honesty. All right, no other questions.
Thank you.
Yeah, I have no other questions other than I was looking forward to Chuck.
Well, he sent me with the plan, so, I always say people try to be Google certified lawyers. I'm a Google certified engineer, so I'll give it my best shot.
Any follow-up questions? Seeing none, can I have a motion?
Motion to approve site plan application for 1621 Cromwell Avenue.
Have a second?
Second?
All right, all in favor of the motion?
All right.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Thank you. All have a good night.
Congratulations. Agenda item E, site plan modification to condenser units located in related improvements, Rocky Hill Gateway LLC for Kelson Row, for property located at 2418 Main Street and 1 Dividend Road in a town center zoning district ID 10-184.
With this one, the sitting commissioners are Commissioner Zarelli, Commissioner Mahos, Commissioner Robbins, Commissioner Hussey, and Commissioner Lecco.
So you will not be seated? You will not be seated?
Correct.
As well as myself.
All right, good evening. Just for the record, Rock Emmon, Associate Civil Engineer with SLR International Corporation out of Cheshire, Connecticut. Here with Harrison Levy from Belfonte Companies, Rocky Hill Gateway LLC. I believe we have actually a presentation. I don't know exactly how to flag the IT guy to
We see
let
it.
him know. Oh,
Okay, yeah, yeah.
It's there, I don't think it's on slide 1, though.
is there a room? Yeah, it's just not on the big screen. Oh, it's starting.
Turning on.
Okay.
Let's see.
And I did print out, just so you know.
Oh, beautiful. I printed out some,
like,
too, in
I printed
case.
it out for the commissions on the table this evening.
If we could go to the first slide, please. Getting a preview. Let's see, does this work? On would help. Nice, beautiful. Thank you, IT man. I wish I knew what your name was. What was his name?
Ray.
Ray, thank you, Ray. As some of you recall, last meeting, we were here originally for some landscape changes on the plans. We originally got that approval for the landscape changes. One of the conditions as part of that approval was to figure out what to do with the condenser units along the streetscape. One, to satisfy you with moving the condenser units along Building 1, which is currently installed, and then looking forward for Building 2. We've since conferred with our construction team, the mechanical engineer, the electrical engineer, on what it's going to take to move them essentially from that area into either the north or south of the buildings for both Buildings 1 and 2. In doing so, we're looking at trying to avoid possible utility conflicts. So we kind of have a alternative method to get here that we're looking actually for the commission to give us guidance so that way we can meet that condition in a plan set in January. So just to give everybody a brief overview of what we're looking at. These are the existing condensers. It was actually our first attempt to kind of screen the condensers at that time. It was a little bit of a rush effort because we were doing it just before the last meeting. These are, I believe they're Shamrock Hollies. They're spaced about 2.5 feet apart, if I recall. These would grow, obviously, to be more dense. You would obviously barely see them from the road, but there were concerns about still seeing them walking by, noise, things to that effect. This is a view walking south on Main Street of, you're looking at them on the left. Obviously, you would still see them in this view as you're walking down Main Street because they would still technically not be obscured by the landscaping. As part of that previous landscaping plan, we did show that the entire L would be filled with landscaping, just for the record. Opposite view, you're walking north. You can see Building 2 behind it. These are the condenser pads as you're walking this way. There's a utility pole, such and such. What we're really trying to do here now is enhance the corner and enhance the streetscape. One of the key points that we're trying to make with this kind of evolution is Building 9, which is the mixed-use building, also has kind of a seat wall that's wrapping around it so you can have the plaza area. Well, in kind of tossing ideas around on how we can meet both, enhancing the streetscape, meeting your standards, we tossed this idea around, and we actually really like the idea to essentially put the landscaping in, shuffle around the condenser pads into an L shape along the building instead of being a cluster, and providing a 36-inch seat wall, which is about 6 inches taller than the condenser pad or the condenser units, and completely obscure while also providing some sound buffer to people, pedestrians walking up and down the streetscape. This is Building 1. This is the north side of Building 1, what we were looking for at the original photos. And this is how we're looking to obscure that. We do understand that there's still technically the residents, so as you can see kind of behind the photo or behind the wall, the residents would then immediately see the condenser units. This was actually the prior condition if you were to put it on the side of the building, but they're also going to be right there. So we are tossing around the idea as well as providing landscaping for them so that there is blocking of their view of the condenser units as well. So it's kind of a hodgepodge idea as to what you would allow so we can address the condition, as well as, honestly, we kind of want to make it better for our patrons and our residents now that we're really looking at this in fine detail since it came up. This is actually Building 1 all the way to the north. The plaza would be on your left, or, oh, sorry, Building 2, thank you. The plaza would be on your left. This is how you would see it along Main Street. We're doing essentially the same thing on the anchored corner. This is a smaller cluster. So previously under the mechanical engineer's design, they had smaller line sets along the front because they were trying to make sure that they could get to their specific areas. And as you know, specifically Building 2, there's a large grade change between the front of the building and the rear of the building. So there's actually a retaining wall. Then you go down into the lower level about a story. So there's actually a split between what condenser units could go where, as well as we were thinking about it too. And if we were going to be putting the condenser units directly adjacent to the plaza, it's not exactly the world's greatest condition. So we would like to put the wall essentially the same way. No, my little arrow's a little screwed up, but 36-inch freestanding wall should be pointed at the actual freestanding wall. The 30-inch condenser unit call out is actually just there to show you that you can't see the condenser. These were modeled, so you completely obscured by the 36-inch wall as you would be driving by. This one particularly wraps around the building to make sure you can't see it on either side. Vice versa, now we're on the south side of Building 2. The same thing, anchoring the corner. This one's a little bit different because on this corner of the building, we actually have a set of, or two sets of windows. So in order for us to kind of both make sure that we're not going to be obscuring the residents from their balcony like we would be doing on Building 1, we're kind of anchoring that corner, breaking it up, and there are actually two sets of walls The two sets of walls, one directly in the corner, and then one closer to the kind of faux entrance. This one specifically would have 3 units, and the other one, I believe, is 5 units. Oh, these are all 3. Oh, that's even easier. So these would all have clusters of 3 units, and they would be broken up by the wall. Just to give you an idea of why we're coming up with this, so as you can see in this photo, this is the kind of the anchor point for when you're driving into the facility or into the development. This is Building 9. Fun fact today, I believe Ben caught that there was a flag sign, which is not permitted. So based on this photo and based on Harrison finding out today, that flag sign has been taken out as of probably about 2 or 3 hours ago. So please ignore that on this one image, but the idea is still there, and as we're zooming into the wall, and I can actually, oh, I wish I took the one corner, but I guess you can still get the idea. So you can see that this wall that's currently installed, and it's going to be almost mimicking the same condition. We're going to have some landscaping in the spring along this edge in cohesion with the wall. So we can really make different story beats as you go through Main Street. Because actually that's kind of a good point for, it would go from a small wall, small wall, small wall, larger wall, and then eventually get to a larger wall. So it's like musical chairs a little bit. So we're getting closer and closer, and we're creating that cohesion between the buildings like we were touting when we originally came back for Building 11 to make sure that the facades of all the buildings kind of created that symbolic story. So I think that this particular scenario that we're under is actually providing an enhancement to the streetscape. And we're also investing in making sure that this is an investment to the streetscape, while also understanding that the constructability, after going through with our construction group and the designers, is something that's feasible. So at this time, we're really looking for your guidance on if this is a route that we should go, so that when we resubmit plans on, I think it would be the week of January 6th. That way we would be on good for the 15th meeting, because the condition said we had to have plans for the 15th. We want to know that this is a route that we should go, so we can have all the consultants make sure they're in line with this design, and that way you're satisfied and we can proceed forward. I think that's kind of it in a nutshell.
So we'll just go through commissioners.
Yeah.
Is it ready?
I personally am okay with it, but I have one question.
Sure.
Building 1, take me through again what you're going to do. You're actually going to take condensers and move them?
Correct.
You're going to wrap them, so you're going to keep a line, and then you're going to move the second?
Correct. It'll be in an L shape.
So the line closest to the street is now going to the side of the building?
Correct.
And-
Correct. So it'll basically be a complete bisect of what's there.
So do you
So that
think
4 feet.
do you think that wall, looking down the street, do you think that wall will be even with the entrances, the porticos, as you go down the street? Or do you think it's still going more toward the sidewalk?
There would be more towards it would be in line
It
with.
would be more in line with the pads that you have for the porticos?
Yeah.
It won't leak past the sidewalks. I can.
Put your name for the record.
Harrison Levy with Bafanti Companies. It will not be past the building. You guys brought up a concern that they were too close to the street, so
Yeah.
they're gonna be at least 5 feet further off the sidewalk. So some of the spacing has to be certain distances for manufacturers, so the plan is to wrap them, as many as we can get off Main Street, we're gonna be pushing around the corner. So if you guys like the concept, we're gonna confirm for next meeting, and we'll actually show specifically how many will be on the side of the building. But right now, there's 9 condensers total in front of the building. This is showing putting 5 wrapping around the side, that we know we can move 5. We potentially might move more than that, but in essence, the wall's still gonna go in front of the building, because we don't want if you don't have the wall go in front of the building and tie back, it's not a good detail, and you'd be able to still see them going through.
Correct.
So,
On the other side of Building 1, on the entrance side, you're not moving any of those, you're just gonna put a wall around them? On the opposite corner of Building 1, on the entrance?
The entrance is on the, we were under the impression that those ones were not facing Main Street, so that was okay. So at this point in time, for this meeting, we did not plan to put any added walls there.
Is it, with grade and anything else, is it a problem just to anchor that corner with the same wall and finish the whole streetscape off with it?
But there was, I can speak to that, there was potentially discussions with that. At this point, no, but we want to get through this hurdle, to be
Yeah.
honest with you. And then we want, I haven't met everybody on the board. This project's very important to us. I started in January, so it's, the nicer we make this look for us and you guys, the better it leases, the better residents we have there. So there was initial discussions with that. Some of those discussions would be part of when we go ahead with Building 11, when we actually start that construction, to be honest with you. We want to get through this hurdle, like the landscaping. If you do go past there, there's still some landscaping that's missing there because we couldn't get it all in. But we internally want to address that, and we'll come to you guys when that time comes.
And as well as, I also believe that along the entrance, there's also going to be an entire plant bed that would hopefully obscure that, planted in the spring.
I thought out to the commission that it may be a good thing to anchor that corner to make it all look cohesive with all the rest of the project. And then my last question is, you came before us times before with a tree plan. Is that still part of this, or you're just trying to solve the condenser problem? Or is it still the tree plan that you guys?
So the landscaping plan is not changing,
Okay.
besides making sure that we can additionally screen this.
Okay.
So that will be updated in the plan set. That way you can see the seat walls, the additional plantings, the shamrock hollies that we would anchor with these, so that they're kind of mirrored on all sides. So that will be updated.
Okay.
But the previous approval is technically not changing too much, but we'll the next plan set is going to have two plan sets, I envision. One of, these are the plans, and these are the changes between the approvals, what we've got approved for, blah, 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 blah. So, and I'm going to send that to Kim with a list, and hopefully it's as clean as humanly possible.
Final blessing.
Final draft.
Okay.
Every plan set is 99.9% done.
Okay. I have nothing further, other than that, the corner of Building 1 to finish it all off.
Commissioner, you got questions? Because we can participate.
Yeah, you can participate.
You can
just-
participate, just not vote.
Looking at this picture, this is building 9? One.
That's one.
So the grade here, what's the grade change between the walkway and the actual pad?
It's about 18 inches. It's actually pretty significant for such a short distance.
Right, so
So by
it
actually
be-
pulling grade back, so we're pulling the wall back by about 5 feet, or putting that wall in, and we're going to flatten that grade out.
so you'd be lowering the units.
Correct.
That's all I got.
Commissioner Isaac?
So I guess a quick question first. Over at Building 1, I took a quick peek. Is there
Sure.
gas meters? Where's the gas meter at Building 1?
I believe it's on the south side of the building, because the electric meters are on the north side of the building.
Yeah, I saw the bank of electricity.
Yeah.
I just didn't know where the gas.
I believe it's
meters
on the
are.
south side of the building, so if you
they
look
are
at the
on the entrance.
pads, it would be on the right side of the second pad.
Okay.
They're on the entrance. Well, I'm not good with the south-north.
Oh,
It's
that's
If you pull in the main entrance,
Yeah.
they're right to the left.
Right there to the left.
Additional plantings are going in front of those to hide those. So there's a lot of landscaping with your concern. The landscaping kind of needs to get finished there. And then there's some pretty, I don't know if we have any, can you go to one of the other sides, Rock? Sure. If you go to Building 1,
Well, this is building
sorry, go to Building 1, existing condition drawing
Oh.
or photo.
photos.
See these tall plants here, these taller trees? Those are on the plans to kind of go in front of any type of meters already. So a lot of that is going to be screened pretty well. We have the same concerns that you're bringing up now. So I was trying to push to getting all this already in the fall, before either meeting to show, here's what it looked like before, here's what we're putting in, but we were unable to just because of weather, the cold snap. So the gas meters are all on, I think all of them for the whole entire
Sounds
building are on the inside of that.
Okay. I guess the other question is just curiosity in terms of the condensers themselves. You got a mixture of standard condensers as well as mini split condensers. Kind of curious, why the differentiation on that? Any idea?
Good question. So the heat pumps are for common spaces. So the residential spaces have just a traditional condenser, and we have utilize a hot water heater that's an on-demand hot water heater that does both hot water and provides hydronic air.
Okay.
So.
Thank
I
you.
think just to reiterate, I know in the previous meeting there was concern of noise or anything like that. Building 2, just reiterating, there's only 3 bunches, so they're much further spread out. So we feel comfortable that moving these back, and the only 3 units that would, just to be clear, there are only 3 units that you would even run in the wintertime are the heat pumps for the common areas, which are smaller units because we went with more efficient units. So.
Yeah, I like the idea of swinging it around, and also with what commissioners are really had touched on, cohesive type of wall, I think would be good. But thank you, also.
Mr. Leco?
Just a question for staff. Are these condenser units subject to the setback regulations?
No. Keep in mind, there was concerning the front of the property, the commission waived that, and they can in the TC zone.
Okay. No other questions?
Well, we waived it to the site plan.
Correct, and that's, then,
But we
they're
didn't- we
here,
didn't- we
they're
didn't-
here this evening.
We didn't shrink it further, right?
Well, we're finding out.
Regardless of that, under your regulations, there's a section under design considerations that basically says that if we screen it and you approve it, it can be placed.
Commissioner Morhos?
Yeah, a few questions. These are not located where they were on the original plan that was approved two years ago, is that correct?
No, they're not located as they were approved 2 years ago, but they were part of the zoning permit process in the building permit process, which is why the discrepancy came up and why we're trying to address it the best we can now.
They were part of the building permit. Well, they were on the building plans.
Yes.
There was not a zoning permit for the condenser units.
Correct.
There was a review on the structure for the residences. So, but they were located on the building permit plans.
Okay, where were they originally located on the plan that was originally approved?
Let's see.
That's what I'm driving at.
So if you were to be looking at this plan, well, I guess this is a rendering, but they would all be located on the left side of the building. Technically, at that time, unobscured.
But further away from the sidewalk?
I
Yes.
believe yes,
Nothing in front of the buildings.
correct.
So then,
Besides the canopies to
what was
the entrances.
right, what was the rationale behind moving them from where they were originally proposed that we approved? Anything specific?
Well, it comes down to the mechanical engineer's design. They place them, they work with the architect, and it's something that unfortunately just got missed during the design process.
So that cannot be corrected, or can it be corrected?
It can be corrected, but in talking with the construction team, as I iterated, there are actual more logistical issues in relocating them all to their designated locations, such as other utilities. As iterated earlier, we actually have the electric meters on this side of the building. There are electric services on this side of the building. There's the currently installed sidewalks So we're trying to do our best while making sure that we are also enhancing the streetscape through the usage of the walls.
The one thing to note is the sidewalk that's shown in the drawing here is much closer to the building than it was originally shown. Why is that? Because there's a large stormwater pipe that runs through the whole property. That part of our project, we replaced a certain section of that. So that was not clearly shown on the drawings originally. So in order to do that work and make sure there's a big clean out and being able to maintain and maintenance of that, some of the areas had to be adjusted. So that's one of the reasons that it wouldn't work with the design through the different renditions that was the design was further developed. So.
Okay.
But also just to note, at the time of the approvals, the condenser pads and the condenser units would be completely seen from the street, either from the north or from just walking on Main Street. So regardless of where they were under the approval, the enhancement with the walls and the landscaping is a major enhancement on the streetscape.
Okay. How much noise do these compressors make when they're operating?
Do you know what the decibel level is for the condensers? 70 decibels at 80?
70 or 80 decibels was, I believe, the range.
Got it. So accordingly to Harrison from Belfonte, it's 70 to 80 under full load, which to that same point, because of the walls, it would be dampened from Main Street, because they would be, obviously a brick wall is going to kind of, it wouldn't absorb the sound, but it would bounce the sound. So that's another reason why you would want the landscaping on the interior to assist with the residential unit that's currently on that side.
Okay.
And also
I
to
don't know
just
the
make
exact-
sure that everyone's aware, this is Main Street, which is a state road, which has heavy traffic at all times.
Not in the middle of the night. I forget which building we actually gave a waiver to the, I think it's building 2, that we gave a waiver to the setback requirement by a couple of feet. Do these go out? The condensed units at the, looks like the northwest corner, there's some of building 2, is that correct?
So,
From what I'm looking at here.
sorry, this would be building 1, and I believe at that time it was building 4. I don't think it was buildings 1 and 2, but I could be wrong on the original approval. There was also
I'm
a
just
number
doing it from
change at some
memory, but-
point, so there was some obscurity there.
Well, the northwest, the building on the northwest, which is right next to the park, that, I believe that's the building that we had a waiver of 2, 3, 4 feet. I forget exactly what it was. Because the corner of that building was further from the, was closer to the property line than the setback requirements.
Oh, well, that's a good point. Sorry, Harrison just reminded me, then this did come up in an earlier comment, that the condenser units don't require a setback. So it does, technically, it's a moot point, I guess, but we would do our best to maintain the location along the building. Obviously, there could be a few inches that would be penetrating to the setback, but I believe I don't recall, but I think we're 0.
It's pretty close. Or I think actually one corner of one of the buildings, I believe it's what's now called Building 2. I believe that actually was closer to, provided a less setback than the zoning requirements. Now these, so they're closer. What's the requirement for, what about the retaining wall? Is that gonna be even closer? That's going to be even closer to the sidewalk than the condensers.
So
Is the
we're
retaining
actually,
wall covered by the,
no, the retaining wall would not be covered by your setback regulations, because I believe the setback regulation for a retaining wall would be in excess of 8 feet. So a 36-inch wall would not require, I guess, a zoning setback requirement, besides just the section that you guys have under design considerations for screening, which allows for walls, fences, and landscaping. I think it's 6.2, if I recall correctly.
okay, along the lines, I mean, we're late in here. We don't, offhand, I don't know what 70 decibels is. How loud is that compared to?
That's like a
large
car
truck
driving by.
Is it?
It's essentially a car driving by.
Okay.
Very close car.
Okay.
Typically, sound ordinances, actually, I don't even know if there's a sound ordinance requirement along a street frontage. Usually it's around a residential zone, and it's usually 55 decibels around a residential zone, but we're along a street. So I don't necessarily, I would have to defer to staff on what the requirement would be.
Our ordinance relates to uses in certain zones. Yeah.
Got it.
Zones
Okay.
in particular, in
Yep.
residential zone, or where a commercial use abuts a residential zone.
Yep. So this being the TC zone, probably because they are anticipating a retail or plaza or restaurant use, probably has a higher requirement than residential zone. Because you're probably going to most likely make more noise than, I mean, one of the points of the plaza space is also to essentially be an arts in the park scenario where you could potentially have a band come and do little craft fairs or something. And that would obviously be pretty loud. I'd go. But I digress
Yeah,
a little
but
bit.
not in the middle of the night. Which brings up another question that I was gonna get to, but since you mentioned it, the plaza that you referred to a few times in your original presentation, is that the park at the northwest corner of the entire property?
Yes.
Okay.
And like I said during that portion, the previous approval also had the condenser units in that location on the north side, and they would be completely open. So this would be a further enhancement to that condition by putting the wall and the landscaping.
Okay, ordinances and regulations notwithstanding, just looking at that photograph or that rendering you have on the screen right now, behind those bushes and that retaining wall are condensers,
Yes.
and you have two people sitting on their patio, probably 2 feet away from the condensers.
Yeah, loving the
You
noise.
know, I mean, I know there's a lot of things involved, but we have to consider, I mean, I don't know if it's our jurisdiction or not, but we have to consider the comfort and the living conditions of the people that are actually gonna be renting those apartments. Now, they're gonna be sitting there with these loud things blasting away. I mean, a retaining wall isn't covered, so the noise is gonna go somewhere, it's gonna go up.
Correct.
So we have, I mean, you have condenser units that are, in another photograph or rendering, you had them right in front of those large picture windows. Is that bedrooms, living rooms, or what? You're gonna have this noise, and I don't know if the window's open. It's just, I don't know.
We appreciate your comments. We
You're
just,
going to,
with the design of the building, we're limited on space, just to reiterate, because it's the streetscape. This is a long
Yeah.
building with not wide sides, so we lose 50% of the land that we'd like to put condensers in the front, and that's why we're here today, to try to move the couple that snuck in the front. So we appreciate your comments. We're doing the best we can to screen them and help the residents. That unit might not lease, or that unit might be a reduced rate in order to lease that unit. Different units throughout our space have different rates depending on the amenities, the views, and different things of that nature. So that will be something that we will need to address. We will try to put some type of landscaping on the inside to try to stop the view from people to seeing them. But this might be, there's 42 units in the building. There might be this unit that isn't the best unit. And I appreciate your comments, but I don't think the commission has jurisdiction. I respectfully say, we're trying to fix the view on the front. We can't fix it all. If you have a suggestion that you'd like us to do, adding a certain shrub of some sort, no problem. The one thing I would say is, and I'm not trying to push it off, is there is fencing on the inside and a railing. So sometimes stuff starts going away. So when we do install some plantings, you're going to see them. There's going to be 6 condensers. They don't just go away like you can't see them, but things start disappearing really quickly when things start grassing up, different flowers. So we understand that corner is not going to be great, but it's one unit on the lower level that was suffering out of a building that has 42 units, so.
Correct. But that condition wouldn't have existed if you did what you originally got approved for. That's my comment on that. And
No,
I'm probably, I don't mean to be argumentative.
No,
but
I appreciate that.
I'm
And
just very
actually-
concerned that,
if I could, all the units would be, it's up to, not to, just to respond back to you respectfully, you'd have 9 units on one side of that unit versus going around. Maybe it's a little bit better, but I don't think it's much. Not disagreeing with what you're saying, but we're doing the best we can with the landscaping that we have, so.
And just additionally, if they were going to be placed in that location, they would be directly adjacent to the electric meters, which have different requirements for setback requirements between the condensers and the electrical meters. So that's another reason why we can't just put them over there, because there are electrical conduits going directly to them there.
and, okay, for now, just one more question. How much heat do these condenser units generate when they're operating? I mean, I'm just a layman. I'm not
No,
an expert on condenser units.
I just know
But
that they.
I've walked past condensers in commercial properties where there's heat pouring out of these things, and that's why there's a fan that's blowing like crazy. So how much heat is generated, and will they affect the people that are living in the house and the apartments?
We're not to give you, we're meeting code requirements, so there's certain spacing that has to be on the units. So don't know the heat that generates off the units, but they're required to be 18 inches from a structure, and then there's a 30-inch difference between unit to unit. So we're meeting the recommended guidelines for the condensers, so that way they don't over-generate heat. So I don't know what temperature they provide, but we're meeting the manufacturer's requirements in regards to that.
Okay, that's all I have with questions. So, and this is, we don't have a final plan yet either, correct? This is just, you're proposing to do something along these lines.
Correct, correct. A final site plan will be provided
we-
in January.
Okay.
We're
And
really
then I
looking
think
for your buy-in, so that way we can proceed with the design. And if you guys did not like this, we would alterate to either really trying to figure out how to move utilities and get really complicated on certain areas.
All set?
Yeah, I guess so.
Commissioner Robinson?
Okay, so I'm just trying to figure out, and again, my focus right now is primarily on buildings 1 and 2. So what are going to be the actual setback requirements for the condenser units you leave in place?
There are no setback requirements for the condenser units.
You don't know that as a fact? No, there's no setback units for the wall.
No, there's no setback requirements for mechanicals. They say in the design considerations, it says that mechanicals can be installed as long as the commission allows for them to be screened in different types of ways.
And that's why they're here.
So then we're back to the approval question. All right, so let me ask the question again. Which condenser units that are showing in your rendering are you going to relocate? Are you gonna leave the 3 that are in place now? Or are you gonna pull them all up, lower the elevation, leave 3 in the front, and then put the rest over to the side? Again, it's just the lack of specificity.
No worries,
No.
so yeah.
So these units along the front are going to go here.
Is there a handheld mic? Only because we're recording,
sorry.
so. There's one on the chair. Sorry.
No, we can speak through it.
Okay.
So you can see that there are 5 units along the front of the pad.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's a total of 9 condensers here. So these 3 condensers would stay, and we take these ones and rotate around the corner here.
Okay. So how are you gonna lower the elevation in the 3 to stay? You said you're gonna lower it.
Yeah, we'd have to drop the pad.
So
Oh.
for constructability, we're gonna do it before the summertime comes. We're gonna take these condensers, disconnect them, take the
Oh, okay.
gas out,
Alright.
relocate them, no worries, take it down, pour a new pad. It'll be a continuous pad, so it's nice and clean. Just a note, just to give you guys information, you might say, why is the pad so big? Most people pour little pads. Actually, most people buy the precast. We poured pads so the line sets were nice and clean. If not to, just bringing information to your attention that I wanted, so there's all unistrut, so all our line sets are nice and clean, that the actual building officials appreciate that. So line sets don't go all over the place and get damaged due to landscaping, people step on them, it could become a danger. So that's why there's continuous concrete. So in essence, it's gonna become an L shape wrapping around the building. And like I said, we're gaining at least, we know for a fact, we're getting at least 5 feet further away from the sidewalk that they are now.
And let's stay on this picture for now, but when you wrap those around the unit, you're pretty much surrounding the occupants of that outdoor space with all those units. So,
Yeah.
if one unit makes 70 decibels, is there an amplification
No.
effect
No, that's,
of having multiple units running at the same time?
no, it's not multiplicative, and they don't, accumulate at the same time when it comes to sound. So when you're at a certain decibel level, there can be amplification if it's, a power surge or something like that. But when you have multiple of the same thing, it's not a greater amount of noise, it just goes further, because you're looking at nodes on either end.
Okay. All right. And, yeah, and 70 decibels is a moderate, safe level. It's 85 decibels over an extended period of time that
Yep.
is unsafe. It could lead to some hearing loss, but I don't suspect folks would be sitting outside for 8 hours. But
If it generates enough heat, they're gonna
especially if
turn
they're
on
surrounded
and
by
go
compressor
inside.
units. But getting back to Commissioner Morehouse' question about the heat, I mean, these units do give off a good amount of heat, so come summer, it's a hot day, these things will be cranking on the hottest days of the year.
Yeah.
It's gonna be an outdoor sauna for the people that might come out onto that patio area, isn't it? I mean, how are you gonna
Well,
deflect the
they do
heat
have a
away
working
from the,
condenser
are you
to
gonna put
cool them off.
reflective material on the inside of whatever,
Well, so that's, the housing typically is for heat dampening. So obviously, with every condenser unit, there's the housing that goes around it, and then there's the fan. That is, making sure that we, as Harrison iterated, it's getting all that air that it needs to make sure that it's operating at an optimum temperature. And there are certain setback requirements. I'll use separation requirements, I won't use setback. Separation requirements from the building, which is 18 inches. So it doesn't specify 18 inches away from a window or 18 inches away from a balcony, just from a building. So it does take into account that you are going to be generating that amount of heat, and that delta between you and the heat source is going to change drastically between you and the heat source. So it will be pumping up, and it is going to be dissipating into the air. It will generate a little bit of heat, but the idea is that it's making sure that it's as efficient as possible.
okay. And then the wall, when you do put in the wall, it's gotta come out a bit away, to leave room for air circulation. It's got to come out,
Correct.
probably another 18 inches at least in front of those units.
Yeah, that way they can get as much air as humanly possible.
So how far do you think the wall, the part of the wall that'll just come out off the jut there?
So these units are around 30 inches wide, like there's 30 inches difference. That's why we're saying we're gonna be, in essence, you're gonna be putting it right at the edge of where this condenser was, right here. So you're
The wall.
losing The new wall.
The wall, but.
But the new drawings, if I can, the new drawings, we can make sure to clearly indicate the distances for you.
Yep.
This is our approach, based on your guys' concerns, that if you guys are okay with it, Rock's gonna put pen to paper, have everything spelled out, showing exactly where the condensers are, showing those distances, showing how far they are, and we're gonna be specific on that, not only for you guys, but making sure the people in the field install them in the right locations so they work properly.
Okay, and then just moving on to building 2. Again, the same questions about placement and location for building 2. Aren't the compressor units there already, or you haven't put those in yet?
No, we have not put those in yet.
Oh, that's why I'm not seeing them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't have they're intended to go to these locations, to be up front. These were the permit drawings showed them going here. One thing to note is the elevation here is kind of skewed. These are renderings, so
Yeah.
I think the next set of drawings,
Yeah, we'll have full grading plan because obviously it's
Well,
part of the full
let me
plan set.
adjust my question and ask, is the distance between the edge of the sidewalk that's closest to the building and the retaining wall on building 2 gonna be the same distance?
no, it's further away.
It's even further away?
That's correct.
Yeah, because the road splits as you go away from the,
Okay.
as you go to the north.
But the building does jog also,
Yeah,
so.
yeah, it has the articulation.
Right, those are my questions, that's it.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
No, we really appreciate your feedback on this.
I just have a couple of comments. So it looks like from what was approved, those condensers were out on the side, but they were all exposed to the tenants, renters, as well as the public.
Yeah.
And even from the road. So now what you are proposing is covering those condensers with walls, put some green. so
Correct.
that
Give you
those
some
are covered.
contrast.
And even from inside, you're planning to put some trees or some shrubs.
Yeah, some shrubs.
So if somebody's sitting in the balcony or somewhere, it provides some sort of buffer where it wasn't there before.
Correct.
So that's the kind of difference I'm saying. I also want to see, especially on the northern side, where the public places, I want to see what impacts this is going to have.
Yep.
Because right now, I'm just seeing a bunch of trees, and it's hard to see, because that's the main piece of this,
You wanna see this.
attraction,
You
yeah,
wanna see
Yeah.
that, right?
right.
He
So,
wants to see.
in the
like
corner.
Yeah, he wants to
thing.
see from the plaza view.
the public,
If I
Yeah.
can address that,
Yep.
the one reason we don't want to move these ones over here is to not, the drawings, the next meeting, Rock can show, but it is well landscaped there, that there are more condensers tucked way back in the corner and tucked below. Once again, not having a lot of footage, taking
Yeah.
these and putting them up here actually hides them better versus, I don't mind saying if you said, hey, can we tuck these around the corner? No problem, I just wouldn't recommend it because it wrecks that corner where we felt this is
yeah.
just asking
What
for a
I'm saying
render.
is,
Yeah.
I
Asking for a
I
render.
want to
Yeah, he
see
just-
the rendering.
Yeah, he wants to see this corner.
Just want to see how it affects.
Yeah.
Because that
'Cause-
is the attraction point for,
Because essentially what you would see, if you were to kind of imagine, you'd have this kind of scenario
Yeah.
minus the length of the wall. And that would be completely landscaped. I don't think that the meters are on the north side of 2. So it would just be landscaped and then building facade.
But I just want to see
So
how it
when
looks.
it
So-
relates to the public,
Yeah.
you're getting
Because
actually
what
leaps
was
and bounds over what
approved,
was
because
there.
there was a change there, we want to make sure that
Yep.
if we are trying to fix one and
Yep.
not creating another problem. So
Understood.
that's why I want to see how
Yep.
it's going to look. So in your, when
Yep,
you,
so when we come back next month,
Provide that.
we'll have the plan set, we'll have updated renderings, that'll show the plaza space, and then, we can just hash it out one more time, and hopefully off the races.
and then I see the tree, it's the ZM, is that, are those the trees? I was trying to figure out what they are, because it's not in your plan schedule, so just,
In the public space.
yeah, in the public place.
Oh, in the public space? Let's see.
Again, I'm just trying to make sure what was approved before.
Yep.
I want to make sure that we are.
Yeah, I
not
think those were on
creating any
when we
problem.
got the plaza space site plan modification. I believe those are,
I don't see in the schedule, plan
yeah, I don't think they're
schedule.
on this schedule either,
So just a
unfortunately.
comment, you can address that.
Yep, it'll be on the overall schedule, which was actually part of the previous approval we just got for the landscaping.
Yep.
So, and there should be an overall schedule as part of that, and then supplemental schedules for every individual building.
And the facade, the stonework is going to be same as the existing wall that you already have? So
Yes,
the same,
at Building 9, that way it's, if you're looking at each building, they're gonna be essentially
Same.
identical.
Can you just pull that, just to make sure you guys, there's two types of walls that we have on site.
Yeah,
One is
so-
yes, we're doing a
Yeah.
decorative wall.
Correct.
That's a nice, yes.
Yes, you would be seeing this.
this, okay.
This wall, not like, so there are retaining walls on site that have, obviously they're block walls, so they're a bit more beige than they are gray. So that's one to differentiate between a retaining wall that's holding earth versus a freestanding wall like this that's obscuring.
Yeah.
Also, I kind of like the gray and the black, and it looks kind of nice.
And I think I see at the entrance, if there is a way to bring the consistency, and I know in the original plan, it was there. So,
Are you speaking about building
Oh,
one?
yeah,
About the Victor's Wall around, okay.
on building one, at the main entrance.
yeah.
Yeah. The one, I thought you were talking about potentially putting a wall there. The one thing I would state, not saying we won't look into that, the grade change, as you brought up, is much lower from where the street is. So trying to put
Yeah.
a wall there doesn't do what we were trying to do, because we were
good point.
internally trying to do, the first thing you brought up from the meeting, my boss says, we gotta put a wall here, and I said, how tall are you gonna make the wall? Because when you're looking down, it doesn't matter what.
Okay.
But I would say we can come to the next meeting with some photos of that, because I think if you see how it is landscaped,
Yep.
and we actually did, I think, some nice gravel
Yeah, wall
in there.
versus screening options.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think when you see that, you'll like it, and some of it, we're gonna have to, we already talked internally about adding some additional shrubs. That's why I wanted to point out, once again, those tall, skinnier shrubs, so it lets things breathe, it hides them fairly well, but
Are there any comments that we would like them to address so that when they come next time, we see,
I have one,
okay,
not to interrupt you, but
yep, go
before you
ahead.
move along. Oh, you ready? Okay, I don't know if this is asking too much or making it too expensive to prepare these plans that you're gonna come up with in January, but can we actually have a before and after, not detailed in the before as far as all the detail in the property, but a before set of plans that say where the condensers were,
Yep.
and now the final that you're gonna present to us.
Yes.
So that we can say, let's just put some numbers on it. So
Yeah, what I
condenser
can
1,
do-
2, 3, we're gonna be here, and they're gonna be, in the new plan, it's got 1, 2, 3 are gonna be over there, type of thing.
So Commissioner Morhos, we have those plans on our table that we are seeing right now, and those are marked
Okay.
based on the plans that were approved. So,
Okay, back 2 years in February or so of
Yes.
2022, I believe. Okay, I'll just take a ride
But
down
they're-
tomorrow.
But they're kind of a last minute fix, if you could make them a little bit more professional looking when the next
Yeah,
person.
Harrison is doing his best to make it as clean as possible.
so we have
So-
the existing.
So to
Okay.
Yeah,
that point.
so what I will create is a overlay document that has the original
Yeah,
locations in red,
Yep.
the current locations in green, much to the effect of what I provided last time for the landscaping plans.
That'd be great, that'd be great.
To that point, on January 15th, the plan that we're looking at is going to be the plan that is consistent with zoning and building.
Correct.
So going forward, we don't have to deal with the magic, which plan is which.
That is the hope.
Okay, I just want to make sure that we're on the same page, that
Yep. We're
we
looking for a
want to
clean
have the-
baseline,
Yes.
clean
okay.
baseline.
Yeah, just quick question. You're presenting one option. I'm assuming you looked at a bunch of options. And this is your best option.
This is the best option.
Have you considered, and this might not be possible, but using the roof? The reason I'm asking, because I've seen it, I've seen condensing units up on the roof and shielded. So I'm just wondering if it's possible to split these, put some on the roof, because you got the third floor.
In the future, we will be, if we do buildings like this, we will be putting them on the roof. It looks like we have a flat roof because the look that we did, and we invested money to get that look. We should have just put a flat roof. Right now, it's a pitched roof, so it's not feasible with the roof structure we have now. It would become an eyesore to doing that. And then in order to get up there for servicing them wouldn't work. So the reason we're going to be, if we do projects, the other buildings that we've done with this company haven't been as long of buildings like this. And sometimes you'll learn a little bit as you're going to get the approvals and everything. So one of our takeaways is a large building like this, you have to put them on the roof or it's difficult to shield with landscaping, especially if you lose a long building that, not to reiterate, but it's 50% of our space that we could have put little pockets, we lost because of Main Street. So, but you're correct, that's where they should have went. If that's where, I don't know, you didn't say it like that, that's where we should have put them.
I think that would be probably, when you are far away, you will have an eyesight that you can see on top, not when standing next to building, but as you are far away, you will see those.
Correct, I've seen
And
them,
they'll have to,
I've seen them
you know.
shielded, but then you solve all the issues of
Yeah,
the noise.
typically there's a
Yes.
parapet and then
Yeah.
a small
You-
like
Then you have
fence or
to
something.
cover it up,
Right.
and
Yeah.
a lot of
Yeah,
things.
unfortunately, the roof itself
Yeah.
is not conducive to that, and
I understand.
that idea did pop up.
Any further questions, comments? So, all right, thank you. So
See you in January.
Yep.
You got the comments that you're looking for, and hopefully at the next meeting we'll have.
Yep, I think it's perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful holiday.
You too.
All the
Yep, you
things.
too.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Yep.
Appreciate it.
Jim, how do you want to deal with the move
Let's postpone it, let's
to
table.
EV? Do we just table it, or do you
I
have
would,
to make
ta-
comments?
I would make a motion to table.
You had comments. Do you say them before, or you're going to keep it? You said you had comments.
Well, no, I was talking about the, well, we want to make sure building 2 was included because the.
No, I'm talking about the EV, I'm sorry.
EV.
Oh, the
We're on
EV?
now.
Okay. The EV, I would hold off. It does need to be tabled because they're not present, but I do think because the EV charging is not on the building, I see this as a minor change, and I think that regulation needs to be changed. Because right now, the regulation states that EV charging stations need to come to the commission, but there's nothing on the ground, it's on the building. And so that I see as a kind of a glitch.
Gotcha. So you'll look into that for something for a public meeting and everything else to change? Okay. In the meantime, we open it and table it.
I would table it,
Okay.
open it and table it.
Motion to table amended agenda item C, site plan application, major change per section 9C 64E of the Rock Hill zoning regulations for an EV charging station at 850 Brook Street.
Have a second?
I'll second that.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Discussion zoning regulation modification recommended by the Affordable Housing Committee. Addition.
Can I make a motion for a short recess?
Yeah, could we, I would second that one quickly.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes.
Just
Alan, you're there?
I don't know if that's, I said, well, I'll reach out to you because I knew that it's the field you're in.
Alan?
I am here.
All right, okay. All right.
Motion to come out of recess.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Discussion zoning regulation modification recommended by the Affordable Housing Committee. One, addition of an affordable housing set aside in all residential zones with a higher percentage in the town center zoning district when mixed use is proposed. Two, modify definition of apartment accessory in section 2B to include detached units to be consistent with section 3C2, 3C, and 3D2. And three, to consider adding the allowance of tiny houses as deed-restricted affordable detached units as defined by statute in all residential zoning districts with a zoning permit in section 3D2, including a definition of tiny home in section 2B. And number four, modify regulations to allow for separate utility lines for detached structures, section 3C2, 3E.
Yeah, now, these are not actual amendments. These are ideas that the Affordable Housing Committee has, and it's based upon the Affordable Housing Plan. The Affordable Housing Plan does call for affordable housing set-asides. That doesn't give you a percentage, but in all the residential districts. We have already talked about higher percentages in the town center zones as is indicated in our regulations. So these are, once again, just ideas. We would have to formulate the amendments if this commission wants to do it, or if the Affordable Housing Committee wants to propose something to planning and zoning. So number two, that definitely needs to happen, because I noticed that the definition of accessory apartment does not include detached units, which we modified our regulations to have detached units or include detached units, so the definition needs to be modified. So that will definitely be coming before you. Tiny houses were a big topic. One of our members on the Affordable Housing Committee did do some research and did find some information. The city of Meriden has an actual tiny house development going in. But they also talked about tiny houses as the detached units.
How does a tiny house differ from a cluster? We have cluster housing. How does that differ?
Well, tiny houses are actually regulated by building code under the Appendix AQ. I got my education through our building official, and possibly through another building official that I might be able to speak to on that. And I think they were in your packet. Appendix AQ was in your packet. The difference between a tiny house or a detached accessory apartment, you have a size restriction, a dwelling that is 400 square feet or less in floor area, and that's where the definition of a tiny house. Whereas a detached unit is 30% of the gross floor area of a home, and we have some very large homes in town, so if they choose to do a detached unit, it may be larger than 400 square feet. And so that wouldn't meet the tiny home definition under the building code. But tiny houses do have to meet the building code as spelled out in Appendix AQ.
What was the spirit of separate utility lines for these structures?
That was suggested by our chairman, because he wanted to make sure that, I don't know if they wanted to designate them as affordable, so they would be charging their own utilities. I'm not sure about that.
Yeah, I think all this, we are going to acknowledge, yeah, we
They would-
received it, now we'll be
Yeah.
looking at them to propose
Yeah,
what
they
want
would,
to
they
do.
would want to come and do a presentation before this board.
So, in utilities, are you talking about sewer and water as well? Because I know the MDC has some strict rules on adding additional meters or,
Not this chairman, it's the other chairman.
no, I understand, I'm just saying in
You know,
general.
I don't know what he's proposing.
Is it utilities, all utilities? When it says utility lines, or is that
That
just,
I'm not sure.
Or is that
We
just
don't
like
know.
powered
So,
TV?
yeah, so again, I think you know,
Yeah,
not to cut,
that I
not
do
to
not.
cut short,
I
but
don't know the
let's,
specifics.
let's
No.
wait for them to come up with specifics, because I don't want to discuss something
And
that
that
we
may
don't
not
know.
even come forward.
Yeah.
These are just things that they were talking about.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So, but they want this commission to be aware that they're looking at possibly changing zoning regulations and those are the things that they're
How
concentrating.
does their committee work? They come directly to us, or they have to go to town council first and then they come to us?
It's advisory. They would come.
So they come right to us as a member of the public?
As an advisory committee.
Yeah, so they'll come to, because this commission has authority over changing, so.
Yeah, they're advisory, so. Like if they want to seek a grant
I have-
or something, they would have to go to the town council
Okay.
to work on that.
Tiny
I have a
homes,
few questions when you get around to it.
on the definition of tiny homes, I haven't looked through the reg, but I've seen them built on trailers where they're movable. Is that considered still a tiny home if it was put on a parcel?
Again, we don't have details, so whatever we are going to discuss is ifs and buts, and there is no detail right now.
Yeah, these
I'm
are
going
just.
to wait
yeah, these are
for
just
them.
ideas.
Currently in the definition, it
Yeah.
doesn't say the permanence of it.
Yeah.
So,
I don't know.
so let's wait for them to come up, because this may not, as Kim said, this may not go anywhere.
These are just suggestions.
These are
They want
suggestions.
to come before us, whatever,
They want to come before us, our comment is, give us some details,
discussion.
and then we can discuss.
Yeah. I mean, if it's going to be moving, that's a problem. That's going to be a problem, because we are approving an accessory apartment as a detached unit, if it's going to be a tiny home, under the building code. And we don't have any involvement with building code. The building department does. But if it's going to be classified as that accessory apartment and allow tiny homes, then if they're on wheels and they're moving, that's a problem.
All right.
That'd be a problem under zoning.
Alan, you have questions?
Yeah, just a couple of either comments or suggestions or whatever you want to call them. When we do actually look at this, or maybe Kim can go back to the Affordable Housing Committee when they're putting together their presentation and all, is to consider specifically what the utilities are that they're concerned about, which is already mentioned, by the way. Also, health and safety issues involved. If these tiny houses there might be a certain location on a property that's acceptable so that fire and ambulances can get in easier rather than climbing over banks of snow and fences in the backyard. And possibly, I don't know how,
We're in the weeds.
Yeah, I mean, we will discuss those when they propose. I mean, right now, let
yeah, well,
them,
this is suggestions for them to actually include in their presentation that they have ideas on these things. And also, I don't know if Kim can do this or who would do it. Maybe we can, I don't know how many towns already have zoning regulations covering these types of homes. But if we can get some samples or examples of what they've done, what other towns have done to address this issue. And hopefully there are a couple of towns that are the size of Rocky Hill and the basic configuration of a town like ours, not Hartford or New Haven or anything like that, just to see what they've already considered and hashed out with regards to zoning regulations covering these tiny homes.
Yep.
So just to prepare before in advance, give some ideas on what we might be getting back from the Affordable Housing Committee when they come in with a presentation or firm recommendations.
all right,
What is the schedule for upcoming proposal?
for this one?
For this topic, yeah?
No, there is no schedule.
There's not a
I
schedule
think.
yet?
No.
This is just,
This is,
just a heads up?
Yeah,
letting you know that that's what they're suggesting,
Working on
and
it.
now, yep.
you know.
They meet once a month, at the beginning of the month.
So now that maybe, Kim can go back and say these are some of the things and, Okay, let's move on to item 6A, CROG Regional Planning Commission. Commissioner Mahood, present.
Let me just go through the last meeting. It was about an hour and 45 minutes, and a lot of it was around looking for nominations for officers upcoming. And they're going to appoint a nomination committee at the next meeting, which is in March, which is 4 months from now, or 3 months from now. And that's what it specifically, that was a big part of the actual discussion. We adopted the meeting schedule for 2045, which is basically the same as what we had this year, March, June, September, and November. They also discussed, well, they approved the minutes, which is nothing, but the big part of the meeting was discussing new officers and how to nominate them and how to actually weed out good candidates for us to vote on. But there's no specific procedure set. That's going to be set at the March meeting. And then there was a section, about a 15-minute period where people spoke about what's actually going on in their towns or communities regarding zoning regulations and issues like that. So that was basically the sense of the meeting. Actually, the meeting was an hour and 47 minutes, I just checked. This a comment like I made the last time we had a meeting was there are 39 towns in the region, and only 15 were represented. I think it was 18 last time. So actually, it came up also that few towns don't even have representatives or commissioners for this commission appointed. New Britain, I believe, was one of them. So it just shows, I don't know, a sense of urgency for this commission by some communities around the region. That's basically it. I sent Kim a link to the minutes, and also I can send her a link to. They don't do a video anymore. They don't put the video online anymore. From what I've seen, they just do an audio recording. I can send that so people who are interested in an hour and 45 minutes of people talking, they could look it up and see what happened. But that's basically it. This is more of an informational type commission. They're not a working commission where they actually do specific thing very often. And so it's more of an informational type of meeting. I guess that pretty much explains what happened back in November at our November meeting.
All right, thank you. 6B, zoning enforcement.
Could I just go back to the Regional Planning Commission? CROG did send out some information on their regional housing strategy. They did find consultants, and they'll be working on that. The regional housing strategy is basically allocating, with respect to affordable units, throughout the region. So the state's basically dividing up into planning regions, regional planning regions, and then taking each region, and they're going to do a regional strategy for affordable housing and housing in general.
So it would be all CROG municipalities?
CROG, yep.
So that's our region, CROG?
Correct. So, and I can send out, and if you notice, I'm trying to send emails with information. I'm trying to do it like 2 people at a time, so it's not a quorum, so it's not a meeting. So you'll be getting, 2 of you will be on the same email for different things. So I'll be doing it that way. So We also do have, they did adopt their regional plan of conservation and development as well. And I can send you folks links to that if you'd like that as well.
Yeah, one more thing, well, as far as the regional, their plan of conservation and development, it was approved back at the previous meeting. And there was one other thing of, they're looking to get, I think it's because they want to get some more interest in this commission. They're looking to maybe have meetings, live meetings in different areas of the region and try to get the individual towns a little bit more engaged in the overall commission, regional plans in the future. That was just a discussion on ideas, and there's nothing specific. It's kind of like our tiny houses thing. It was a discussion, but no timeline or definite plan yet. So that's it. I'm sorry.
So you're saying that they want to come out to the municipality, they want to come out to Rocky Hill or Weathersfield or Newington?
And they were talking about a possibility of doing that. The way the minutes get created is a brief conversation over how to best continue forward with the commission structure so they can better engage the intended audience of planning and zoning commissioners. So they may want to put together a presentation. At each meeting, there was a short presentation on what they've done in the previous 2 months. So they may want to go around to different towns and actually say, this is what we do, can you help us with whatever? But that's the concept so far, it's nothing specific.
Okay.
Is it good?
That's
Go to zoning?
I haven't seen a spreadsheet in the packet, just so you know. We do have a property that's been a subject of a very large blight lien out on New Britain Avenue that is in the process of getting cleaned up. And we do need some legal advisement because the property is for sale. Typically, when there's a closing and the property is for sale, that lien must be paid. But we're not looking for the lien to be paid, we're looking for compliance with the blight issue. That's primarily why we put liens on the property to start with. So we're going to be working probably, it probably is a quick matter with the town attorney just to make sure this property's for sale and they're looking to close soon. So we're trying to work with the town attorney on that. Because there's a time frame for them to close and a time frame to get the property cleaned up. So we want the property cleaned up, but we want to make sure if it's not cleaned up that that lien remains.
How much is it just a lien, or we have accumulated X number?
It's accumulated thousands of dollars. So, but we want to make sure the property's cleaned up, and it's come a long way. So we're hoping that that'll be done soon. So that's our latest thing.
Yeah, I think it's, I mean, unfortunate that all these years it was not cleaned up, and when now they have to sell the house, they are doing the deed. I would have both ways, you know, have the lien that we have put in paid, as well as get the house, you know, get the property cleaned up. I mean, the town has been punished for all these years with the blight. So, at least in my view, you know, they should pay the fine, because that was the fine. So, I mean, because otherwise, this
There's no teeth.
enforcement doesn't mean anything.
There's no teeth.
There is no teeth to that.
Oh, we'll
I
see
think-
what they do.
But I think that's where I think as a planning and zoning, that's our charge. And we recommend them, this is how otherwise, that enforcement doesn't mean anything. And everybody knows that, hey, when I have to sell, I'll clean up at that time, and nothing will happen. So, I don't know other commissioners, I want to hear your views, but at least I'm like, hey,
Well,
your property was
isn't the lien gonna
blighted.
transfer with title? I mean, if they didn't clean it up, the lien would still be attached to the,
I believe
No,
so.
we'll
No,
forego.
the lien has to be cleared before the title,
so they can't even sell it with the
has
lien
to be
still.
part of the closing.
Yeah, yeah.
But we'll have to let it go. So there are two options. Either you tell them to pay whatever amount is there, or town agrees, now that you have cleaned up, we forego the, and clear the lien. So that's another option, right? But
Or reduce the lien.
There's a lot of unusual circumstances, and this may not be what you're thinking of, I'm not sure. And we can talk about it, I'll talk about it offline with you. But there's a lot of unusual circumstances concerning this particular issue.
no, I'm just talking in general, because I want to, make
make
sure
sure
that
I- yeah.
when, because we get a lot of blight,
Yeah.
complaints. So if town just gives up, then people will say, hey, it doesn't
And
matter.
we have to review the file, because there was a hearing also. There was a hearing, so we need to review the language that the hearing officer put on the record. So we have to review that also.
One of the things that a bank or a lending institution requires is that the buyer, the attorney for the buyer, does a lien search and make sure there are no outstanding liens on a property before they'll even award or approve a mortgage for that property. So unless somebody's paying cash, it's going to be looked into.
Yeah, that's why they're coming to us. That's because it's on
Yeah, that's,
sale.
I think, why.
Yeah, that's why they're coming. So,
Yeah.
okay. Minor modification?
No, as I said, there was one that I thought on the agenda would be considered a minor change because the structure itself is on the building, not on the ground. But that's something I'll bring forth to the commission.
So I think we should discuss that, so you will probably propose the change, right? And then at that
Correct.
time, we can discuss
Yeah.
pros and cons, okay. Affordable Housing Committee?
I
we
think
just
we've done that.
We saw that, their proposal. Legislation,
I'm going to say nothing at this time.
will be starting January 8th,
Yes.
the long session. We'll see. Communications,
Actually, I do have I have a few things to talk about. I want to talk about the POCD and then back to the regional, if I could. There is a corridor study that's being conducted with Weathersfield and Rocky Hill. It's on the Solistine Highway. It's from Parsonage Street north to the Hartford line. And they just had interviews for a consultant this past week. So they would be making a decision. And basically, it's safe streets for all. That's the theme. So we're talking about multimodal transportation. We're talking about all abilities, connectivity, access management, possibly reducing driveways. So it's involving Rocky Hill, Weathersfield, CROG, and the Department of Transportation. We're talking about, they're looking at major traffic generators. They're looking at the average daily trips, vehicles per day, south of 91, exit 24, looking at 22,000 right now. And in the vicinity up by Hartford, it's at 16,000. And they're talking about, there's been considerable number of accidents. Between 2017 and 2021, there's been 23 fatal accidents in that stretch.
23, 24 exit, right?
Well, between,
Solstein.
along the Solistine.
Why did it
Between-
stop at Parsonage? Why does it not go farther into Rocky Hill?
I'm trying to figure that out. That I don't know, but I know that this is primarily through Weathersfield. Weathersfield is the one that started this, so.
I think,
that's what they
to
do.
that point, I was going to bring up if we can include up to Kelson Row.
Yeah.
Because I
Up
think,
to Elm Street,
Yeah,
yeah,
this-
because I think,
This is too far along.
oh,
This is too far along. This is through, I know that Steve Sopelak's been involved with this. Because they're looking at the I-91 interchange at 24, and maybe reconfiguring that. Years ago, they wanted to tee up that interchange, and that's major.
Let me ask you this, could we make what they find part of our POCD for the rest of the length of street?
Well, it would be an amendment to.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
If, if it's a good practice Parsons Street going north, why can't it be a good practice Parsons Street going south?
So it's a state road, right?
Yeah.
So state will dictate. But I think it would be good to see lessons learned, because remember I've been talking about traffic calming and all that stuff that we want to do here, like, maybe parallel parking or something, or cross parking on 99, and, hopefully we can.
Yeah, I don't see people backing out onto 99.
No, or having like a median or something, and, they try to address.
A median, there was actually a grant, there was a grant for a median
Yep.
in 1990-91. There was a grant that was obtained by then town manager Paul Shu to consider a median down 99, and the business community came out against it.
Yeah, that was a long time ago, though.
Yeah,
Yes, it
I think
was.
things
Yes, it
have
was.
changed.
Yes, it was.
Things have changed now, and
Yes, it was.
Left turn lanes
I
are
think
now-
it's, we're
Yeah.
trying to
So-
create like that atmosphere,
Yep.
because it's a highway atmosphere right now, just people just zoom, so, okay.
I think that's what they're looking at, is the dual left.
That number is about 8% of all fatalities in the state, based on the numbers they post on the highway DOT signs.
Yeah.
It's about 8%
That's huge, yeah.
of the entire state.
That's huge.
Yeah, there's like
But then if you look at,
300
like on 91,
fatalities.
the accident
Yeah,
rates on
that's
91
significant.
Yep.
between exit 25 and exit 22, that's
That's
pretty bad.
huge.
That's huge also.
That's huge.
So that's-
Every week there is something,
Yes.
okay.
Meanwhile,
What else?
Plan of Conservation and Development. There was a budget request for a Plan of Conservation and Development, which was greatly reduced when it went into the budget. And Dipple very, very generously talked to some people and added additional money. So we got up to $50,000 total. We went out with an RFP. There were 5 inquiries, 5 firms that actually got the information, got copies of our current POCD, and there were no respondents. No respondents at all. Steve Sopelak and I looked at other communities in Connecticut that were going out for RFPs for the same thing, and they were looking at budgets of $150,000 to do an RFP, an updated RFP. So we passed that on, and we were basically told that, we have a lot of the pieces of the puzzle done already. The affordable housing plan is done. That will have to be updated in 2027, start in 2026. That would have to be updated, so that would be an amendment to the POCD. On the table this evening, I put down the community resiliency plan, and that's talking about, this is basically the effects of climate change, and has a lot of that in there. It talks about drainage studies, it talks about mental health, it talks about volunteerism. There's a whole bunch of different things in there, but this would be incorporated into the POCD as well. This was an exercise facilitated by Nature Conservancy and Sustainable CT. And it had not only town staff, the mayor, town manager, it had some of the utilities, it had people from the VA, business community, so there was a bunch of different players that were involved with this. and it was a morning in August we worked on that. So that would be incorporated as part of the as part of the POCD. And obviously, we would have to look at any conflicts between this plan, affordable housing plan, and what have you. The hazard mitigation plan, which is also another document that's done through emergency management and CROG, that would become part of the POCD. And I'm working on data collection right now. This is my start of that for data collection for the POCD, and working on a community survey to get out on the website and get out to all employees to have it attached to their signatures so they can, when they send an email, it'll go out to people, and do presentations before different boards and commissions, because it has to be done right now in-house. That's the way it's going to be done.
Any collaboration, I don't know if Weathersfield or Cromwell or Newington, if they are looking to update their POCD and.
Weathersfield just hired, I don't even know if he started yet. They have a new town planner that just was hired. I don't know if they started, did they start this week? Okay. It's nice we have a source. We have a source of information now. So. And I'll be meeting Elandra Main. We have a new economic development and business manager who has experience with the Middlesex Chamber of Commerce. And she and I are going to be meeting with the economic development director and the new town planner in Weathersfield, probably just after Christmas. We're going to be sitting down with them as well.
I mean, the collaboration was if we hire one consultant and project becomes like 300,000 because there are 3 towns or something, or 4 towns.
Yeah.
And, you know. I don't know if Chamber and others can participate in terms of funding and if that's the way, but I'm just throwing this
Yeah,
out.
I don't
What,
know
do we have to change the request now because no one responded? How does that, what happens now?
Internal.
It would be in-house, and there'd be extra meetings. There would be extra
okay.
It would
meetings,
be
and we'd
in-house
have to go through
us.
and.
So then we get paid.
Will we share in what was appropriated by the town council?
Pardon?
I'm joking.
What did you say?
If we do it, the money that was put aside for
No, you.
plan.
No, you don't get that, no.
No, that's
I'm
different.
joking, I'm
I
joking.
know, I know.
For pizza, that'll take years.
All right.
No, so,
Anything else on communication?
I don't think so. There is something from CROG on I just put it in the packet for the resolution for the regional housing strategy that I referred to. So,
Maybe we can use them to do that section.
to do help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't have bills.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas all.